Hello and welcome to another video from me, Rough Swordsman, Wargamer. It's an open the box and it's an unboxing of something rather special that was sent to me, a pre-release copy from Vuca Simulations, and it is Traces of Hubris, a game by Tetsuya Nakamura, and at the time of videoing, this is not due for general release until June. So I must thank Patrick and everybody at Vuca Simulations for sending me this early copy, which is in fact, as far as I understand, a sister game to their earlier game, Traces of War, also by Tetsuya Nakamura. And if you want to see what that's all about, I'll leave a link up in the corner there. So if you want to know what it's all about, I'll leave a link in the description to Vuca Simulations webpage so you can have a look at it, see how much it is and all that sort of thing. But if you have pre-ordered it or still on the fence, why don't we see what's all this about? Traces of Hubris is a two-player game that simulates the German Case Blue, Fall Blau, summer offensive in southern Russia during the second half of 1942. The goal was to cut off the Volga at Stalingrad and to capture the Caucasus oil fields. So in the box we've got two 23.2 inch by 32.7 inch, which in new money is 590 by 830 millimeters maps, 297 5/8 of an inch or 16 mil, and 24 3/4 of an inch 18 mil round counters, two sets of player aid sheets, one solitaire track sheet, which if you're used to Vuca simulation games, if you're playing them solo and you don't want to strain your neck looking backwards and forwards over the top and bottom of the map, they supply all the information you need for the solo player. One rulebook and one 6-sided die. The game features divisions and cores. Time scale, one turn is 2 weeks to a month, and the map scale about 22.5 kilometers per hex side to side. Playing time 3 to 6 hours, and players 1 or 2. So the designer Tetsuya Nakamura, developer Edgar Gallego, art director Patrick Gerbhardt himself, graphic artist Pablo, and I hope I don't muller your name too much, Pablo, Berserk, and lead playtester Leonard Lindbach. On the game meter, complexity is 4 out of 10, and the solitaire suitability, a whacking 9 out of 10, so very high. And here we can see a little bit of their fabulous maps and some of the counters. Right, let's get the shrink wrap off. The shrink wrap is off, so let's open the box. So as per normal, first thing we see is the rulebook. So let's have a look at that. Rulebook is full color, of course, semi-matte pages, and comes in at only 19 pages. And looks familiar to the rulebook of Traces of War. So we have all the credits here, some abbreviations, table of contents, introduction, game components, the map, the units, how that all works, Axis setup indicators and the Soviet setup indicators. Here's the headquarters, what they look like, and here's the Soviet one. Command range with an example, and then these command chits which we had in the other game. Some of the other markers that are included. Raid sheets and this solitaire track sheet which we'll have a look at. So preparation for play. This is again a 2-map single scenario game that tells you how to set this up. Sequence of play, and those sequences are further explained in detail, showing you what you get for your Soviet chit pool composition and the Axis chit pool composition. And just like the other game, I think you're told on the turn track how many of each to put into the cup for you to pull. But that's explaining those. Stacking, zones of control, Luftwaffe air support, supply, and the effects of not being, you lose a step, and German withdrawal each time the supply chit is drawn. So all about that, some Axis rail transfer, and then we're into movement. Nice examples here. And then combat. Results, that could be step losses, retreats, terrain effects and stacking limits, the effects of that on combat or retreating, and advance after combat, of course. So when you draw out the reinforcement chit from your cup, you will get reinforcements. That tells you how this works. Over here we've got a combat example, and then special rules for the scenario. What happens on turn 1, HQ special rules and fortifications. The effects of fortifications, Operation Vuca and Operation Uranus, and the victory conditions. And then you have some optional rules. And then developer notes, strategy and player notes, and historical notes, which, as I always say, is very welcome. That's it. Them's the rules. Next, we have 3 sheets of counters. Here's the first one, showing you the type of unit it is. And here, for instance, we've got the 2, that's their combat strength, and the number in the white square is its movement allowance. Slightly different for mechanized units. For instance, down here, we've got 2 numbers. This is its attack defense strength, and the number in the box, movement allowance. Down here we've got some of the chits. They've all got the same back, so you can't tell whose is who when they're in the cup if you're not looking. And on the other side, this is the reduced side, and showing you actually what some of those chits look like. And apologies, it's suddenly got sunny here in merry old England, so we've got some weird things going on here. Here's the second sheet, showing some of the Germans and some more of those command chits. Here's the other side. And here's the last counter sheet, showing some mechanized units with side-on silhouettes, which I think you can use instead of the NATO symbols. But don't be a tinker and use both. Victory point indicators here. We've got some Luftwaffe tokens, air supply, and control tokens. And the other side. Next, 2 copies of player aid A and B for each player. And as always, these are on thick card. So let's have a look at those. Here's player aid A. And once again, apologies for the weird lighting effects we're getting. But as you can see, this summarizes everything you need to know. We've got the sequence of play here, the turn 1 special rule, stacking, HQ command range. And then we've got the sequence of play broken down into a bit more detail with the Luftwaffe reorganization phase, command chit, selection phase, then the action phase, and end of turn phase. The supply part, and zones of control. And on the other side, we have the combat results table, Soviet reinforcement table, a reminder of how they calculate bits of numbers, so always round fractions down. German withdrawal table, Luftwaffe table, and the Axis reinforcement table, and terrain effects. Here's player aid B, and that shows you your reinforcements, the Luftwaffe air support, a bit on movement and combat. And on the other side, Soviet fortifications, Operation Vuca, all about victory points, headquarters, zones of control, and a combat results table. There is also a wooden D6. And then we've got the two maps. I'll have to get them out separately. So let's have a look at those. Here's the map. I think you'll probably find it easier to have it sort of turned round top to bottom here with the other map on this side, but I'm limited with my table space. But up here we've got the turn track, which will tell you how many of those command chits to add. VP and reinforcement order number over here. And along the side, which you can just see, I think these are entry points, I believe, for the Soviets, and some holding boxes here for the active chit and those that you've used. And down the bottom, there's another one that says inactive, which we'll have a look at in a minute, where you store the ones you've still got to use. Now, because you've got information on all sides of the two maps, this is where the solo board comes in, because most of the stuff you need, the inactive and executed Soviet chits, and one for the Axis, and a turn track, are all on one handy little board, so you don't have to keep straining and looking across the map. So this is what they normally put in their games, and is very handy. Let's have a close-up of the map. Down on the bottom right of the first map, we've got Stalingrad, and they've done it in Russian Cyrillic letters there. And it is some sort of, the paper isn't paper, it's a bit parchmenty, like the map if you have it in Traces of War. So nice quality. Here we can see roads and railway tracks, and this would be an Axis target hex. Here's another part of the map, and here's the River Don, of course. Lovely looking maps. Right, let's have a quick look at the other one. Here's the other map, which joins on down the bottom here. We've got the Black Sea here, the Sea of Azov, and the Caspian Sea over here. Some tables, but most, if not all, are on the player aids. We've got the chit boxes here, and holding boxes for the Axis. And over the other side, we've got the holding boxes, or the false pool, as they call it, for the Soviets. And this is where the other map joins on. And zooming into those mountains, once again, great looking map. There we are. That's everything in the box. So this has been an open the box, an unboxing and sneak preview of a brand new game from Vuca Simulations, which, according to their webpage, will be released sometime in June this year, 2024. And it is Traces of Hubris, designed by Tetsuya Nakamura. And if you're interested in having a go at this game, and you're lucky enough to get along to PunchCon over here in Coventry in the UK, Vuca Simulations will be there, and they are bringing a copy of this for you to have a go at, as well as their other new game, which if you wait a few days, I'll show you a preview of that as well. But for now, Traces of Hubris, not an overly complex game. The only problem I've got with it, and you may have, is the two map situation. But where there's a will, there's a way. But I hope you enjoyed that and found it interesting. If you did, and you haven't done so already, it would be great if you would consider subscribing to the channel, because I tell you what, really does help to keep the little channel bubbling up on the YouTube algorithm. Another really good thing to do, if you'd be so kind, is to push the like button underneath the video, the old thumbs up. Again, that tickles their algorithm and keeps the little channel relevant. And don't forget, if you want to be informed of other content the channel uploads, then push the bell, but make sure you push all notifications. Leave a comment. Have you played Traces of War, the previous game in this, well, let's call it a series? Let me know what you think, because as you know, I love to read them. Thanks as always to my subscribers. Thank you so much. And just before I go, as always, a cheeky little reminder that if you wish to support the channel a little bit further, well, you can buy the channel a coffee, and there's a link for that in the description, or you can push the super thanks button underneath the video. If you decide to do that, that'll be wonderful, and many thanks from me, because those little donations just help the channel to keep ticking along. So there we are, Traces of Hubris. And as I said, if you're over at PunchCon in May 2024, make sure you come along and have a look at this game and give it a go. Right, I hope you can join me for the next video. But until then, as always, you take care and goodbye.